It's mid-May, which means it is time for the May garden tour. Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and welcome back to my meadow. If it's your first time joining us here, I am gardening in Zone 9B in Northeast Florida. I garden primarily around the perimeter of my property because it slopes and that helps me take advantage of the water that runs off. And today I'm going to take you around and show you what's growing on here. Now, one little warning, if you want to see a garden that is perfectly coiffed, where all the seeds were started on time, where all the transplanting is done perfectly, where there are no weeds and there are all these beautiful clean lines, you may want to turn back because my garden is real. This is me gardening the very best I can to grow food for my family, to have fun making content on YouTube and share all of that goodness with you. So if you're in for that kind of a garden tour, come on. Now, I don't normally start over here, but there is something growing on that I just wanted to show you. This is the northern side of my property on the perimeter. As you can see behind me, we're in a suburban environment. I don't have fences. And so what I wanted to do to create a little bit of privacy for the garden and take advantage of the space is plant I'm calling it a hedge, a food hedge. Let's take a closer look. Along this edge here, and it does need to be pruned after the season, I have planted lemon and pineapple guava. Now, it is not a true guava. It is actually considered a cattle guava. And let's get a little closer. And it makes these great fruit. It has these beautiful flowers, and it will grow in nice and thick. And my goal is to sort of keep it trimmed back and hedge-like and give me about a 6-foot food hedge along this side of the house. It creates some privacy for us and for our neighbors and turns what otherwise would have just been blank space into something we can enjoy. And because of the slope, we've had a lot of rain here. You can see how much water is still standing. And some of this may be from my gardening watering where it just runs down. So basically when I water the garden beds behind here, the excess water does come down. You can see all of the dollar weed, which is a great indicator that things are moist and wet. If you have a lot of dollar weed in your grass and you're trying to get rid of it, you may want to adjust your sprinklers and do a little research on that. But I'm really happy with the hedge. I've got one more that needs to be moved. This is actually in its original place, and because it was fruiting, I did not want to take it out until it was done with fruiting season, and then I had knee surgery before I got to move it, so we'll wait one more season. Oh look, we've got a tomato that's fallen in here, so that's pretty funny. Back here in the northeast corner, I have what the goal is to be as native as I can. The bird seed has left me with lots of this plant that I just can't fight anymore, so I let it grow too. But behind here, I have planted out native wildflower seeds, and I can see some of them start to come up. This used to be a place I did a lot of on-ground composting, and so I can see some of the things, like I know there's a bean growing out there. I see some millet, I see sweet potato, but that's okay. And I've got this protective cover. Pretty soon I'm gonna need to pull that off when the flowers and the plants start coming up a little more, because I don't want to leave it in here once they're growing on. Then at the very, very back of this side of the property, we have a creek. And so, we have a tree down. And so this is actually basically as far as the eye can see, left and right, over, well, actually just about where that tree is down, this property belongs to us behind here. And pretty soon I'll be back over there again and I will show you all what's happening over there and what the plans are for that side. Back in the very back, we don't really grow anything intentional back here. I have planted some natives. I've got actually I didn't plant this one, that's an elderberry there, and some beautyberry. And that gives us a way to help feed the birds that help with pest control here in the meadow. Under this canopy of trees, for now anyway, we have what I call orchard row. But if you look, you can see everything is sort of leaning out, trying to reach and get a little bit of sun. If you just kind of look straight down, almost everything is trying to get a little more sun. But for now, it's working good. We get a lot of sun in the afternoons back here, and so they take that. Here on Orchard Row, we have a pomegranate. We have some native flowers planted in between. I believe that's an echinacea. Oh, now this is funny. If you see over there in the corner, I have some lilies here. These are a native lily that I planted out, but I planted them. This used to be 2 different beds, one on each side of this path. And so I planted the lilies in the ground. And so this original plant here that's coming up, and it's exactly in the right spot, was actually planted in the ground below this. And then I just installed the garden bed over the top of it. I completely forgot about it being down there, but it has fought its way up through the garden bed. We have a good bit of citrus back here. This is a Myers lemon. This is this my navel orange? This is not looking very good. I've got to get out here and check out what's going on there. Here we have some blueberries. And this year I got them fertilized very, very late. And we only are going to have a few blueberries. In fact, maybe I'll have this one right now. That's good. That's good. At least I get one this year. But it will get better. And then we have more blueberries here growing in there. Along the back, we've got loquat, lime. There's a nectarine tree. Here's another orange tree. I believe this is a lime tree. This tangerine did not survive, or my satsuma did not survive. I can see that basically all of the growth on this is right at the merge point, so I'll need to replace this one. Then we have this really cool mulberry, which I've kept trimmed back, and I bring it back down. In fact, I brought it back down just to like my height right here. If you look, you can see all the straight growth that's going up. But my plan is to take a lot of those straight ones. I'll be cutting those back soon and potting them up so that I can plant them over in the land across the way. So pretty excited about that. Pretty excited about that. Then we also have some grapevine that are in buckets back here. Another citrus here on the end. And I think there's one, oh no, the raspberry bush is gone. So, and this all, I got really excited and bought a bunch of this stuff at a plant sale and then didn't have time to do it. So I made myself a new rule, and that new rule is I can't buy plants that I can't plant. So if I don't have a place for it or a plan for it within 24 hours, then it's a no-go on the buying, unless there's something really outrageous. But that is my new goal, to keep me from ending up with a bunch of stuff that's getting neglected that I waste money on, because I don't really like wasting money. Here we have some comfrey that I split from a bed that was up front, and we are going to be adding that to more places around the garden. In fact, I put one in with the cucumbers today. I'll show you guys in a few minutes. And I've got to figure out what I'm going to plant in here. Still trying to decide. I'm grateful for this sitting here though, because we had a big limb fall down, and instead of crashing into the building, it took out the edge of the garden bed there and knocked it out, and just only put a little dent. If it had fallen all the way to the ground, I think it would have knocked a hole in my building there. So I'm glad for that. Here I have one more mulberry. I am trying to get some bamboo started so I can use it for utility around the yard. Here we have a very thorny blackberry. If you saw my garden chore video the other day, this is the one that attacked me. And so this very long and tall thing, I was under attack. But I see that we have some bitty berries down there. They're very tiny. These are very, very tiny. And then sometimes during the garden tours, we have to pause for the planes to go over. While we're waiting for that plane, I should go back and show you this other elderberry that was not in the garden bed. It actually was one of the first trees we planted here. We're starting to get elderberries on. I just love how the canopy of flowers look. I just think it's really a beautiful, beautiful tree. All right. I just love living here. I mean, to be in the city and have this much woodlands, it's just really, really nice. I mean, it's the suburbs, but it is not the country by any means of the imagination. Over here I have my strong and proud African blue basil. This has been the best thing for pollinators in the garden. I really, really love it. Back in here, we have got a couple of crepe myrtles that need to be planted out, some lemongrass that's self-seeded, and this is a gooseberry. It's going to go back to Mom because she said they're a very sour fruit, and I don't want a very sour fruit, so I'm going to share that back with Mom. She gave it to me, and I'm going to give it back to her. Over here is my potting up area and nursery, and I can see some things are growing up pretty tall. This is funny, look. It just wants to find a way to get some sun. So it's growing up through the table. That is a project for this weekend, is to get all of this out and get it reset for new nursery items indeed. Over here we have our avocado tree, which died back and then started growing out again. So I still need to cut those tops off. And this is an ironweed, I believe it's called. A native plant. You saw some growing over in the native garden. I am pleased with how tall it is. It doesn't require a whole lot, but I found it laying in the yard, literally growing, because I had bought some, and so I started transplanting them as I found them. And you can see I have a number of them now that have been potted up, all from the first plant that I bought, putting off little babies around the garden, and I just pluck them up and rescue them. Like this spotted bee balm here that I rescued from other places in the garden. Over here, we have more blackberries, and they look like they're getting really, really ready. Now, I have found that I am not in love with blackberries. I never really cared for them from the store, and I have to say, I don't really care for them now. And so, while I have three blackberries growing here, I do have folks at the house that like to eat them, and my sister likes to eat them, so she'll be getting a share of those because they're kind of tart, and that's just not the taste palette I like. Up in this bag here is taro root, and it's been in this bag for a couple of years now, and it died back in the winter, and now it's growing up again. It'll be time this year to sort of pull some of that out and see what we can use it for and transplant some into other places around the meadow. And I guess it's fair to say now this is the south edge of the garden. I've got a couple of the Birdie's raised garden beds over here, getting ready to plant this out with some seedlings that you see there. I have one loofah growing here. I put 3 in here, and then I was messing with the soil, and I think I broke off the seedlings that came up. 3 did come up on this side though, so I'm excited about that. This is also an African blue basil. It took a beating during all the rain that we had, and it looked terrible. So I just cut it back, and I want to see if it'll just pop on back up. Now, if you're thinking about growing African blue basil, the beautiful thing, and I talk about this all the time, it is sterile, so it doesn't grow and drop seed and grow everywhere. This was a plant that started with 3 little stems. It will fall over and root itself like this. This is a long stem that fell over, and so it looks like it's a separate plant, but it's actually just a long stem that's under the ground. So it's got its own set of roots, and it did not even get affected by all the deep rain that we had. But there was a big bowl here, and I think the water just sat in there too long, and it made it too soupy, and it just drowned the roots out. And so I figured I'd cut it back, de-stress it, and see what happens. Here's something new we have added to our garden, and while it's not a plant, I'm pretty excited about it. We have added in a compost tumbler, and so I have a video. I'll be talking about this later because it takes about 8 weeks to make the first batch of compost, and so I'm just doing a start to finished compost video. So stay tuned for that. And there's still more. You probably see these tubes everywhere. There's still more work to be done for irrigation. I'm trying to get that all finished up. The rosemary got a haircut this morning. It was falling over outside of the pot. I want it to be a little more upright. I might come back and try to start more, or I might not, or I might see if anybody wants some rosemary for cooking nearby. We bought this strictly to use for the flea protection for the cats, and occasionally use it around the garden, I guess, as a deterrent. And originally I thought I might turn it into a little bit of a hedge because I understand when it's not in a pot, it can get really, really big. But most of my yard gets really wet, and so I haven't yet figured that out. And of course, I let them sit in one of the wettest places in the yard. Over here we have our sweet potatoes, and I am testing something this year. I am actually using one of the garden grids for watering the sweet potatoes. Actually, I'm testing a couple of things. One, I didn't make starts or slips to do this. I came out at night, and this plant was already established and had started growing from last year. I took cuttings from that, and I made a long enough section that I could put it deep into the ground, and I did it at night, and it's just thriving. And I think having the proper watering is going to be a big bonus for us here this year. So I'm very, very excited about that. In fact, I need to turn this water off because that's been on for more than a few minutes. You know, I didn't think about it when we first moved in about how to leverage the irrigation that was already here for the grass. And so I've been trying to work on little projects around here so we can do this. So here is one of my upgrades down here is we have this standpipe back here, and I added a little manifold, but it's a little short. I have timers that I usually use with it. So I may need to pipe this up a little taller or get a leader hose so that I can add in the appropriate filters and timers that I would like to have off of this to go to all the different places. That green hose goes out to Orchard Row. The silver metal hose is just for right around here watering and up on the patio. And then I just installed this green hose this morning so that I can have a separate line out to the sweet potatoes. Oh, my bumblebee is here. Hello, friend. Oh, I just love seeing the bumblebees out here. It makes me like super happy, super happy. Once the sun starts hitting the plants, you see more and more of them around the garden. So over here behind me is one of 2 rain catchment systems I have. I'm going to order some more covers for them because I can see that it's already turned more algae in there, but I use this also for watering the garden. And it gives us a backup way to water and do extra, especially if we have any sort of drought conditions. I can lower the level and actually put it over here into the banana circle. And so I really love how well the banana circle has bounced back. Just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. Underneath the bananas, I actually planted things like ginger and taro. And I can see some taro here. I think this is actually another baby banana right there. There is sweet potato also, and there is a ginger coming up right there. I've got to get out here with my little digger and cut back some of these babies because I don't need 3 babies off of there. 1 mama, 1 baby. That's going to be my goal from now on, is trying to keep it as trimmed as possible. And if you can believe it, this is just 4 years old. And I started originally with 3 plants, which turned into 9. And I don't know, we cut out probably 8 or 9 after they bloomed last year. And so, I don't know. I just think she's so pretty. I just think she's so pretty. Now, we were trying to garden along the edges of the house, and this is where I originally put in my comfrey. But I've decided I think I want to turn this into more of a pretty scape and maybe put some beneficial flowers or things like that in here. I've got the comfrey, which I can spread out and put all along here, and that'll be a nice ground cover. I will leave the lemongrass here because the lemongrass, and if you've been on a tour before, you already know this, the lemongrass grows really, really well here. It gets lots of full sun. And back in the back is a little drain off of our hybrid hot water heater, which means it's always getting a drip of water throughout the day. So it's getting a few cups of water a day, probably, maybe not cups, but it's just being constantly watered. And so it just thrives right in this location. And so there's just more to be done here. And then for those of you who freak out about Biden's alba, yes, that's what that is. This is a native plant. It feeds the bees when it is winter because they bloom on through winter. And I let this one patch here just grow wild. And once it starts getting past sort of the line of the house, hey, you're over your line, buddy. I cut those back and pull them back, but I just let it grow wild right in here so that we always have a food source for the pollinators regardless of what's growing on in the garden. Now, this isn't food, it's a pretty, and this is called a tabby bua, and it puts out these beautiful yellow flowers, and we actually got a few this year, but I would be remiss not to show it to you, and I would be in trouble with the missus because there's a couple of plants she really likes and wants to make sure they make it in the garden tour. I have started noticing in multiple places around the house these holes. I don't know if I have some frogs that are digging in or if somebody else has moved in down there. I found one up by the water. I do not know. If you guys have any suggestions, I mean, I don't want to stick my finger down in there. And I don't really want to disturb it because I don't think it's hurting anything, but I've just seen these holes pop up. Very curious indeed. This morning I transplanted more sweet potato starts in here. I did actually make slips for this garden just to test that out, and my theory still holds. Almost without fail, when I make sweet potato slips, I put them in the bucket, add the water, I forget about them. And so this time I put them where I could see them, but I didn't put them in the sun, so they didn't run out of water, but they also didn't put on very many roots. And so I was just like, well, we're going with what we got. And so this morning I came out and just dug little trenches. I am not trying to grow actual sweet potatoes here. I will be adding in some sweet Alyssum with this, but this is just ground cover to have a little pretty patch up at the front of the house. We did, if you've seen some of the other videos, you've probably seen the crown of thorns used to sit in the back, and they just needed a bigger pot. So now they got it, and so now they are at the entrance of the house, giving a nice little welcome, a nice little prickly welcome, which is kind of appropriate for me. So that works. Over here in the front is the beginning of a fruit guild. And if you've seen a few of my shorts this week, you know that me and the opossums, because I'm in Florida, not Australia, have been having a little bit of a contest here. I have to get out here and pick up as many of them that fell off during the rain as I can before they ate them all. And so you can see they had a nice little snack again last night, and I am not going to worry about it, and I will tell you why. We are surrounded by woods in the back. We have outdoor cats. We like traipsing through here. And one of the things that we find every once in a while are ticks. But opossums, or possums if you prefer, eat ticks. And so I am now calling the peaches my tick tacks. So let's have some fun with that, right? What do you think? Also up here we have two different plum trees. We have a fig tree, and let me sneak back through here. We have a loquat tree, and I'm probably going to have to trim this fig tree back some more so it doesn't encroach on the loquat, but the loquat will get a lot of afternoon sun. The other thing that's looking really good in here, you can see this green matting. I have been fighting torpedo grass in here. So there is torpedo grass, but there's also frog fruit. And I am just letting this frog fruit take over. I have decided to stop fighting this and fighting the grass up here. I used to have it just mulched. And so the frog fruit is doing a really great job matting it up. And I am hoping it will outcompete the torpedo grass. I tried burning it back last year. There was nothing good came of that. Nothing good came of that. Over here is our Asian wing beans bed and one peach I found on the ground that I got before the possums did this morning. I have to plant out the Asian wing beans. The ones that I had in here last year, I did not protect them from frost, and it looks like they're not going to come back up. And so we also have a volunteer cucumber in here, and I thought I would try something. I've been struggling with figuring out how to do a trellis. I really love the way this looks, this metal. I just think it looked kind of cool when I did it. I built it out, and I like it, but I found that the plants just can't wrap around it. There's just not enough texture. And so I thought about putting some burlap or things like that. So what I finally decided is to do a Florida weave. And so I made my first pass this morning. So as each of the plants come up, I'm just going to come out and put some of the twine around them and let them grow right on up. Here we have our persimmon tree. It is looking great. It will be time to put some protection on it pretty soon as the fruit is starting to appear, and we do not want our little guests in the garden, our guests in the meadow, the raccoons, to have their way with it this year. We see we have one guardian up there. Up, very shy guardian running away. This is my sunflower and spiderwort bed. The spiderwort appeared all by itself, and last year this bed got sort of messed up with raccoons using it as a litter box. So I decided just to put it out of commission for this year. Some garlic, excuse me, garlic chive growing on the edges here. But our first sunflower, I'm so excited, is about to open. I haven't grown sunflowers in a couple of years, and these are just from birdseed. So I have a bag of sunflowers that we feed for the birds, and I just soaked them, and then my cousin's kids came out and planted them out. And so very excited to see how this keeps on growing. Here we have, our fig tree. I almost missed this peach tree. We almost got peaches this year, but all that drought just really, we could not keep up on this tree, and so they dried up, but they're not dead. Oh, hello, another guardian. Hello. And the ants are really just kind of going to town now because of all the rain that we've had. We went from complete dry to lots and lots of rain all at once. This fig tree, and I found the picture of when I planted it. I really need to put that in here. I cut this back this year. I cut the outsides back feet off of them, feet off of them, and so didn't hurt it a bit. I may cut it back even more next year, but you should see how whittle it was when I first started. Over here we have what I call the north garden wall. I posted a picture yesterday on, I think, Instagram. Maybe I made a video, and I shared it on YouTube too, of a flat-sided sweet potato. I'll throw a picture of that up on here. Well, it was growing in here, and it was right up against the house, and so it actually grew in flat, which I thought was hilarious. And somebody really won in the comments because they said, "You fool! That was a load-bearing potato." I just cracked up. I was laughing so hard. That was great. So hey, I love funnies in the comments. If you guys have, you see what I'm doing here. If you have comments, if you have funnies, if you have questions, I love those, and I answer as many of them as I can. So I really appreciate all those comments and all the love that you share in the garden and in the meadow and in the comments and in the YouTubes. So. This bed was out of commission, but with all the seedlings I have started, I'm gonna have to do something about that and get it cleaned up so we can get some seedlings in there. Over here, this is another bed. This is a garden in minutes bed with the full grid and the right size. We have, what do we have here? You know, I'm supposed to remember these things when I plant them. Oh, this is bottle gourd. I have mesclun lettuce. I have Pak Choi in the middle there. And I just transplanted in some basil this morning. Basil. I have some eggplants. Oh, our first eggplant. I hadn't seen this yet. Our first eggplant. Oh, hello. Little Japanese style eggplants. We eat a little of those, and we share most of those that come out. And you kind of see the fedge over on the other side. Another one of my efforts at making a good way to separate the water. So pretty pleased with this for now. I've got, again, there's always more cleanup to do, but I just try to keep it going. Over here we have our cherry tomatoes, and I did just plant in a basil this morning. I had originally planted basil from seed. It just didn't take. I don't know if I underwatered it or if when the raccoon popped up in this bed he dug up all the seeds. One came up, so I transplanted some African blue basil. It's laying back there. It looks kind of sad, but I didn't do a very good job there. But I have had a little bit of pest problem in here. It's not too terrible, but I've been taking off the battered leaves and feeding them to the lizards that live on the patio. And so, not the leaves themselves, but I take the leaves, they have worms on them, and I give those, or caterpillars, and I give those to them. But we've got our first cherry tomatoes on. I'm very excited. All right, our first cherry tomatoes. Hooray! Over here, we are growing peppers, tomatoes, and basil. I have a little compost in the middle. At one point I was going to put some worms in there, and I still will put some composting worms in there and cover that up so I can just feed right here in the bed. I've been testing this to see how it would do. This settled a little bit. I pulled it up. This is just a UV stable milk crate that we bought here. I'll have to find a link to where we bought it, and I just sunk it in the ground because it's a cheaper alternative than some of the different systems that you can buy. So I'm always looking for ways to do it. I have invested in the garden beds. I love the garden beds. I love that. I mean, the low beds are the only ones I've seen real activity in from critters, as far as like four-legged critters and stuff. Other than the cat, I haven't seen any of the other critters get up in these bigger beds. Here we have some beefsteak tomatoes. I've been trying to slowly get them cut back. I haven't done a very good job pruning them, but I do see, hopefully, let's go to the other side because I see something. Look at there. Oh, I see lots of somethings. Oh, let's see if we can walk around there gently. Gently, gently, gently. Gently, gently, gently. Oh, more food here too. Just food everywhere. Look at these. Look at that. I'm trying to be patient and let the sweet bell peppers, these are California Wonders. I'm trying to be patient and let them become wonderful colors. So the tomato has fallen off here, but look at this. There's a tomato. I've never grown beefsteaks before successfully, so this is thrilling to me. I saw some more. I thought I saw some more. Maybe they're over here. Oh, there they are. More tomatoes. Look up there. More tomatoes. More tomatoes. Now it's funny, this is the only plant that has tomatoes. I have 4 of these beefsteak plants and only 1 have. You know, sometimes being lucky is all right. Sometimes it's better than being good. If I was good, I would have had my microphone monitor turned around so that I could see that my microphone was dead. But no, I didn't do that, but I got lucky because it died right in the middle of showing you these beefsteak tomatoes. So let's go back over there and I'll keep on showing you what's growing on. And this is the plant, I think I already said, but it has had the least love, like it's falling and trailing onto the ground. I'm just letting it be. I've tried to keep it off the soil, but I've also done kind of bad at that too. And the other thing I'm really trying to do is resist the temptation to take this off. I want to let it go ahead and see what colors they turn. I want them to look wonderful. Then over here we have our avocado tree, which I planted this tree before the garden bed was here, and the tree was smaller before the garden bed was here. And so every year I talk about maybe I'll move it. Haven't decided yet. I'm kind of in this quandary. It does block a good bit of sun for this side of the bed during the winter, particularly in the early spring. You know, if you look at these 2 different tomato plants, sets over here and over here, those are grown in a bed that had beans growing in it last year, but they also get more of the afternoon sun and they get more water because of the angle of watering in the bed. These, on the other hand, just have never looked as good. I don't know if that is just the soil, the plants, a little bit of everything. There wasn't as much soil in the bed. This was all added in. And so these were getting sun when they were really low to the ground. And these were almost hidden behind the wall of the garden bed. And so maybe they got stunted a little early. But so far, only that 1 of 4 has any tomatoes on it that I have seen. And the weather has gotten hot, and it's supposed to be in the 90s this week, so we may not see it set any more blooms. I may be done with blooms for the season if it stays this hot, because the tomato plant just won't put them on. So let's get over here real quick. See, baby avocados, baby avocados. I don't have tons of them, but I have some of them. And I want to build a little shelter for this. I'm probably going to use some PVC and rebar and put some kind of netting on it. I have a bag that I bought for it, but frankly, it's just too big now to hold it all in. It's just too big. And even during the winter, we had to put 2 different covers on it to try to protect it from the one night we thought we were going to have a deep freeze, which I don't think we actually even did. So this is a Mexicola variety, and it is supposed to be good down to 25 degrees. But what I discovered, one year we had a really long, extended warm period, and it started setting flowers in like December. It started setting flowers, and it set flowers, and then we did have a hard freeze and I lost most of the flowers. I think that was not this year, but 2023. And so that now is a priority to make sure we protect it. And so if I build some sort of a frame system and I use some PVC in the ground or whatever, I can probably set it up so it's something I can use in winter and in fruit protection. Over here, we have the volunteer cucumbers. And this just makes me so happy because I'm working on cucumbers, but these are volunteers and I've just let it take over this bed. I probably need to pull some of it back, but we're eating cucumbers and sharing cucumbers, and it makes us happy because it is the single most enjoyed fruit/vegetable, I don't know what it is anymore, but produce from the garden that we enjoy. And then this morning, and I'm late in doing so because I finally saw my first pest damage today. Other than some leaf damage, I saw my first leaf that was really bit down. So it tells me that the pickle worms are here. And I'm late putting this in, but this is borage, which should be something to help with the pickle worms. And I also want to bring some more basil and put some more basil in this garden bed as well. And then finally, to wrap up the tour, and this is the future cucumber condo. Now, you may have seen my video where I demonstrated putting together this cover from Vego Garden with a little frame because I want to grow parthenocarpic cucumbers. Parthenocarpic cucumbers do not require pollinators. They produce mostly female flowers and they're self-fertile. So I'm hoping that by growing them inside the cucumber condo here, I can actually have a nice season of cucumbers without any of the pest worry that I have to deal with over on that bed. Now I can spray, which I tried last year, but at pickle worms worst is also when we're getting the most rain. So it was requiring me to spray like every other day. And it just was too much with all of the other things growing on in the garden for me. And so I'm excited this year to see how the cucumber condo keeps things growing. And then the other part that I have, what I'm gonna do, let me open this zipper here if I can. These are nice sturdy zippers. I shouldn't probably pull on it to do that. Defeats the whole point of having a nice sturdy zipper. But I have my little trellises that I've used before. I'm gonna stack them up about halfway up here, maybe 2/3 of a way up. I'm gonna find a way to put them on risers so the cucumbers can come up and grow over and I can just pick from underneath. And with that, I will plant underneath here lettuces and other things that need more shade during the hot parts of the summer. So I am like super excited about that. Just cannot wait. Just cannot wait. And so that takes us around most of the garden. I left off the patio. Let's walk up here and see what's growing on over there. We have some more cedar garden beds that need to be put into service, but it is serving as a way. I was using it to protect the seedlings, and I may do that again. And I'll show you where I have the seedlings right now, where I can cover them up to sort of keep anything from getting into them. So here we have dragon fruit. We have 2 of those. They have been fertilized and trimmed, and we're excited to see new growth. Here's my kitchen onion bed, and whenever we buy onions at the store, I just cut them off and come and poke them in the ground here. And then last year, the pods showed up and we got seeds, and I actually transplanted the growth off of those into this side. So these are the children of those over there, which is kind of fun. And so now we can just come out and get fresh onion greens whenever we want them. And I'll probably chop some of these back. I could even pull them up if I wanted to, but they're flowering now. I'm gonna let them go to seed and continue growing like perpetual onions. And I understand now why they call some of these walking onions. I think all onions could be walking onions. If this was in a field, the weight of this is what's pulled that over. And so it literally could be a walking onion if you let it go long enough. Then I think it's funny. I don't know that I ever had a sweet potato in this pot at all. I'm not sure, but I have a sweet potato vine growing there. So I'm gonna leave that for a minute. Then over here we have some of our greens. We have a, oh, Choy Sum here growing, and too much sedge growing here. Oh, and I see the snails have helped themselves to this one. We also have some basil, and I plan to put cilantro in here. I started seed for cilantro in here, and it did not take. And if I say, do we have snails? Yeah, I think we have snails. I think we have snails in here. And then we have our green stalk, which is just all a sweet Thai basil. And I planted some seed from Mom here. She told me it's called Pak Itu variety. And this is the kind we use when we eat pho and make curry. So very excited. Along the line of Asian cooking, we also have the kaffir lime. We use the leaves in cooking, gives a nice lime flavor in some of the dishes. And I have another navel orange here, and another orange tree there, and another garden guest right there, and a key lime up here. In fact, we have one little lime on that needs to be harvested. It's kind of funny. We've always thought about limes being green, but when they're ripe, they're actually yellow. When they're fully ripe, they are actually yellow. Here we have one of our mascots of the meadow. This is Moose. Good morning, sir. He does a good job eating food here and not protecting anything else but the patio. But he does a good job doing that. Over here we are growing mint, and we keep it in a container for all the reasons you want to keep mint in a container. Here I've started seed for the sweet Alyssum. I've started some corn. I need to sprinkle some water on all those this morning. And here are the seeds I started about 2.5 weeks ago. Pretty excited. We have hibiscus and okra and corn. In fact, I need to get some fertilizer on this tray since everything is popped up now. We have other things we are still waiting for it to come up. We had several days of almost no sun with all the rain, and the seedlings did not like that. And yes, I'm growing them outdoors. And so I'll continue learning these things. I do see some onions there. No nasturtiums have popped up, but we definitely got the cucumbers. The Katrina is the variety that's going to go in the bed into the cucumber condo. And we have Okinawa pink okra, and the spineless okra has come up as well. Super excited about that. I thought there was a third. Oh yeah, there's the other okra there, which is motherland okra. And hello, sir. I'm pretty sure none of these flowers have come up yet, so this one hasn't done damage. Hadn't thought about the snails eating my seedlings like that. Oh, man. I know they have a purpose in the garden. I know that they clean detritus, but sometimes you don't want to fight. So I guess I do need to really think about getting these up on a rack, maybe, and maybe put some copper tape around there. I got to say thanks to Mike's Chaotic Garden channel for mentioning the copper tape. Maybe that's one way I could help keep them out. Whew, that's been quite a morning out here in the meadow. I got a lot of chores done this morning. I'll put that video up this week too. And just love being able to take you around and show you everything that is growing on around here. So if you have stayed to this point, thank you so much. And if you watched any part of it, honestly, thank you so much. But if you stop sooner, you don't see this thank you. So if you have any questions about what's growing on around here, or some of the decisions I've made about how we've arranged the garden, I absolutely do welcome those. And I try to answer all the questions that I can. If you want to see more of what's growing on here in the meadow, be sure to check out this video right over here. And until next time, my friends, remember to drink plenty of water. Have my bottle with me. Wear that high quality sunscreen, and as always, have a fantastic day.